Welcome to First Responder Financial Freedom Podcast. We talk to first responders all over the nation who are investing and working on businesses outside of their first responder jobs. Our goal is to motivate and educate each other and help provide a better financial understanding for a better future. Now here are your hosts, Mike Webb, Tyler Thrush, and Aaron Foster.
All right, guys, we are here with Chad Weeden, former cop, turned investor. He is in Investor Fuel with Tyler and Mike. He's been doing some big things, apparently. I don't know him like these guys do, but he's on par to do 40 flips this year. That's his main goal. He just told me that he's doing some buy and holds and transitioning a little bit, which sounds like what I did before. So I'm kind of curious to see how he went from a police officer to real estate investors. So Chad, thank you for coming and hopping on with us.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me.
So far, you're the best cop we've had. It's because those other guys want to use their phones and cameras, and you actually have a computer system in front of you with your beautiful
John
face.
right now is like, screw you, Aaron.
That's partly
because you guys.
That's partly because I've had to learn to live on a calendar finally. I did do a podcast where I'm still a reserve deputy, as you know, for the record. I do that shit for free. Why, I don't know sometimes, but I love it. It's just part of who I am and what I love doing, and I'm able to keep in touch with a lot of people that I actually like to be around. So, but yeah,
not liberals.
I'm squared away just because I've done that in the patrol car with the radio going, and I'm sitting in there while my buddy's working out in the gym. Because I just didn't check my calendar. I'm like, oh God, I got a podcast. So I check my calendar for y'all today.
Appreciate it. So this isn't going to go out to all the liberals. This is people he wants to spend time with.
That's right.
So Chad, where'd you start at? Like, I know you were a cop before. So tell me, you went from after high school, where'd you go? Police officer.
So from high school, I joined the Army. I was a MP. I was a canine handler in the military. And the natural transition. I always wanted to be a police officer growing up as a kid, and that's how I ended up in law enforcement. I got out at IETS from Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia, and was driving back and forth every day. That's when back when gas was like 79 cents a gallon. So I was living in Columbia and driving to the kennels. So it was 88 miles one way. Early days, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, leave. And then I ended up starting the sheriff's office. A lot of my buddies I got out with, or had gotten out that I was in the service with, they got out and started working for the county. And there was this new sheriff named Leon Lott, and he was just badass. He was just a badass dude. And I was like, man, I like that. And so I ended up going to the sheriff's office and was there for a couple of years. And I was doing extra duty. I just remember specifically I was doing extra duty. I used to work extra duty in a neighborhood called Wildwood in Columbia. And that was like, back then, that was like the neighborhood in Columbia. It was riding around. I'm just riding around. I'm like, man, what do all these people do for a living in these big ass houses? Just what in the world do they do? And I was always interested in real estate. And I thought I wanted to be a real estate agent. And that's ultimately one reason why I left the sheriff's office full time. I went reserve. I had a buddy in the car business that was in the car business. He was a finance manager. And somehow, I don't know how he did it, but somehow he talked me into being a sorry-ass used car salesman. I don't know how. I have no idea how Chris did that, but he introduced me to a fellow named Eddie Marisich. And it was just one of those days, in law enforcement, you come off of nights and you're going to IA for some bullshit. And I was just like, man, this is, I don't know, man. I guess I'll see. I'll go talk to Eddie. And that's kind of how I ended up. I had court that morning and had to go to IA and write a statement for BS. And I was like, man, this is what I want to do forever type thing. I was just in the mood like that. And I went and met Eddie at a Nissan store there in Columbia. And, he's like the Godfather. And he just kind of sat back in his chair. I don't hire green peas. I don't hire newbies, but people in law enforcement going into sales have been successful. And, Chris says you'll kill it. And that was kind of that's how I started, in sales. And I got into finance and was with the company for a long time, and, had our first business venture ever. Left the company, had our own business, multiple locations, and then ended up right back in the car business. And then I found real estate. I actually just went for it, like I was wanting to do for all those years. So all those transitions, I was planning on doing real estate at some point in all those transitions, and I just never did.
So MP to police officer to used car salesman.
Sorry ass used car salesman.
Sorry ass used car salesman. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry ass used car salesman to real estate investor.
Sorry ass used car salesman to in shape gym owner to out of shape fat ass gym owner. Hating my life, back to the car business, loving my life, loving the car business, loving my specific job, but and loved making money. I made really good money in the car business, but there was nothing to chase there other than money. Could never chase time. And our little man's autistic, and it was just, I needed to be home. And I just felt like real estate was that vehicle for me. So I just went for it.
So it sounds like there's a lot of ups and downs in the last 20 or so years, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of ups for many years. And, 2011 is when we opened our first CrossFit gym, and it was great. 12 and 13 was great. We had 3 locations within a couple of years. And then I think what a lot of people struggle with, like I see it in fuel too, is, anytime you start adding people and responsibilities and trying to shed some of the stuff you've got going on, it can turn into somewhat of a shit show. And when we hit location number 4 and 5, we thought we had a lot of processes and things in place and all the right people in place, but it turned into just like we just felt like we're plugging leaking water buckets all over the place. And then we didn't realize that in that business, it's not like a regular gym where you just go scan your card and you go in and you work out and you do your thing. It's a community based. It's very community based. And even though we had general managers in locations, people really were buying our product because of us and because they liked us. And, it's traditional sales. People do business with who they like and love, who they like and trust. And, when we tried to pull ourselves when we finally did pull ourselves out of all of our locations in the gyms on a daily basis and tried to run our business from the top, man, it really unraveled. And it unraveled, one, because we realized we didn't have the right people. Businesses, and even in our real estate business, none of us can be alive without sales. Like sales is the golden egg in all businesses. And me and my wife learned real fast that, the people that were doing the sales and the salespeople in our business was us. We were basically just the acquisitions people in our own business in 5 locations, and just we couldn't make it sustainable.
It sounds like a lot of the stuff was like emotionally and morally filling, and some of the other stuff wasn't. So as you kind of progressed, some of the stuff that, as you pulled your personality out of the business, you lost the personal touches, and the business kind of went to shit. So you started to have as you say, plug those holes in those buckets.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
so you were a staple in the business. As like, if they see you, they're comfortable. If they don't see you, they're not comfortable anymore. I've seen that.
Oh, totally. I mean, we'd get in, like, it'd be, we haven't seen you in 3 days or 4 days, or we haven't seen you in 2 weeks. And, it's like, well, I've been at our location down in Bluffton,
you almost become like a victim of your own success. Like, you're successful, but it's all reliant, not all, but largely reliant on the relationship they have with you. And then it's like, well, now that's real tough to replicate. So you alluded to, you got out of the gym business, correct? Yeah,
we ended up getting out of the gym business.
Okay.
And I went back to my old company, in a brand new, beautiful store. And that was
This
great.
was the car dealership?
Yeah, we went back to the car business in end of 2015. So from 11 to 15, I was 100% running our gyms. And my wife had quit her teaching job. She was a school teacher for 16, 17 years. And so we were both full-time in our own business, which actually, we probably get into it, was a blessing in disguise on how we operate and what we do now. Huge blessing in disguise. So that was kind of.
So, okay. So you kind of had to do like a hard reset. You went from being self-employed, multiple locations, like thriving and jiving, to back to working for somebody in a car sales business, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you say hard reset, a hard reset is light. Like, I mean, we had paid cash for our business. Like we had no like business debt. But in our first business, we had a lot of employees. We had a lot of people that we were paying, and unfortunately, when you're in your first business and you love it so much, you make stupid decisions and you start paying instead of getting your ass back in there, you try and wait. You try and get through it. You're paying other people, and then you're not paying your own damn bills, and you're paying payroll instead of paying your own bills. So I mean, we went through a freaking hell of a time. Like we literally have bootstrapped. I think that's what I'm so proud of now, looking back all these years, is where we were, where we are now. I mean, we were completely broke. We were completely broke. I literally went back into the car business, and I was 2 months behind on a fucking car payment.
But that's good, man. Cause like sometimes they say that like your mess is your message. So it's like you can sit there and show somebody like, hey, I thought I was on top of the world. I got kicked in the balls. I got brought back down to my knees, and I, was able to stand back up. Right.
Yeah.
So talk about how you went from like the crash and burn in the gym business. And then how did the next venture after going back for the hard reset into the car business was real estate, correct?
Right. Yeah.
So like, what was the light bulb moment you had there? It was like real estate. Sounds pretty cool.
So my light bulb moment, and I know this is freaking cliche because it's so many people in the damn real estate business, but freaking Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Why I didn't read that the first time in my first business, I have no clue. But the first actual book that I've actually read in my life, the very first book I've ever actually freaking read, since I'd gotten out of high school, was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And there was a part in that book that talks about buying real estate and assigning contracts. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm sitting in this finance office and people come in to buy a car and I'm selling them rate, warranties, I'm selling them all the products, and I'm assigning their contract to whatever bank is going to pay us the most money. That's in essence what I was doing. And so I would sign on the back every contract that we did and had to send off. My signature, without recourse, Bank of America, without recourse, All South Federal Credit Union, whatever it was. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you're telling me I can assign contracts on real estate just like I do on cars? That's what got my mind going. And that's when I really started researching and diving in on assigning real estate contracts. I probably Googled, I probably stopped right then there and like, wait a minute, assign real estate contracts. So I was reading, car business is it's like being in the Army, hurry up and wait. Got my desk cleaned up. I've got nothing to do. So instead of sitting around playing Clash of Clans or watching YouTube or whatever the hell everybody else is doing in the car business, getting through the day on time, I just started diving into real estate. And I started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, reading a book. I was like, all right, I'm gonna start reading books. And that's kind of how I started. That's what got my mind going. Like, whoa, wait a minute, let me research this. Let me figure this out. So it started there.
So once you started reading the books, you started looking at different ways to invest. Like which area of investing really piqued your interest? Was it wholesaling? Was it buy and hold? Was it flipping? Did you have an idea?
It was never really wholesaling. It was flipping, and then it kind of started with wholesaling because at that point I had been back in the car business. I was back to making a couple $100,000 a year. I was good. Like it was good, and we had money in the bank again. And so I initially was like, I'm going to start flipping. But my very first deal that I got, I ended up wholesaling it. If I know now if I knew then what I know now, I would have actually kept that thing, and the owner carried it at 12% or 9%, whatever, collect money down. I would still have that property.
The evolution of investing is like, I'm the same way. Like, I flipped a lot of houses in the early 2000s, and then I was like, that's all I knew how to do is fix it and sell it, fix it, sell it. And then I was like, well, buy and hold, like I can pull the money back out. And now it's turned the Burr strategy. And I'm like, well, I guess I was burring before Burr existed. And now they're doing owner financing. And I'm like, well, owner financing sounds like a good option too. Like, I don't have to get my hands dirty with the plumbing and the light fixtures and shit like that. So to me, it's like, well, this is the next part of the evolution of investing. I've wholesaled, like wholesaling. I found a deal that didn't work for me. So I called a buddy of mine. I was like, hey man, like I got a property. It's not going to work for me. You want to buy it? Just give me a finder's fee. He's like, yeah, it's called wholesaling. I was like, didn't know what the fuck that was, but that was 15 plus years ago. And now these all like, they're all the rage. So there's a lot of evolution in investing. And like I know that you bought a mobile home park. Like, how did you evolve into looking for mobile home parks, or like, why were you going after that asset?
Well, I mean, I actually was never even looking for a mobile home park. We have talked about me and my buddy that are in it, and some other friends. We've talked about mobile home parks, right? And the craziest thing is that deal actually came from Google Ads of all places, and there's actually a house on that in that mobile home park, and they wanted us to buy the house and rent it back to them, and we're like, kind of dug deep into it. My guy started digging into it, and turns out the owner of that house owned the mobile home park and was looking to sell. That's how it kind of happened, and went through due diligence and reached out to some people in fuel that had experience just doing evaluation on them. Did a lot of research and stuff ourselves, or myself, on that. And then I ended up having the deal, and I've never had one before, and I've never done one before. And I was like, I went to an event in Salt Lake and saw one of my buddies. We were talking, and I'm like, man, I've got this deal. I can probably get it funded. But man, I don't know if I want to do this by myself. I think it might be better to have two heads versus one. And, he went and found the money, and I had the deal, and that's kind of how it rolled. We partnered up, and,
boom.
The place is making money, right now with where the struggle is right now for us is we got to get it refied. It's new to us, and we've been reaching out to banks, and, they're, for some, banks just don't like that asset to a degree. But it's a great asset. So we're working through that.
Have you talked to April? Because she was just on here. April Crossley was just on the show a couple episodes ago, and she has one down in Tennessee. So I don't know if she's gone full cycle on it yet, but I want to reach out to her.
Yeah, I will.
Just because I know she bought one with a partner, and I don't know the financing side of it, but
okay,
I'm sure she's going through a lot of the same stuff you are going through, or
I'll message
did
her.
Or will.
Heck yeah, I'll message her this week. Heck yeah.
So it sounds like with mobile home parks, there's two primary operational ways to make money. You own the park and the mobile homes, or you just own the park and then owner finance the mobile homes back to the tenants, so you don't have to fix all of their
problems.
Stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Now, have you looked at like expansion on mobile home? The only reason I'm selfishly asking this question because my property manager actually text messaged me right now about tiny homes and creating a tiny home park instead of a mobile home park. And he's like, we're just looking at ways to like expand. Like, have you looked at expansion or add-on value to these things? Like, what's your structure look like?
So we do have add-on value with that property. There's 5 deeded spots on a plat already when we bought it by the county. So we could add 5 more units to that place. We haven't done that. We're just trying to get it. It's stable. Everything, all that's good. We've got to do some maintenance on some roads and stuff like that. But I feel like that's coming. All that stuff will come down the pipe once we get it refied and get through that. I think we both went into it thinking it was just going to be super easy to to refi because it's such a damn deal. I mean, we bought it for $350. It's 20 acres, 21 units. You know, I renegotiated the sellers. I initially contracted it, I think, at 475. We got I got a 125,000 deduction on the sales price after doing due diligence, and due diligence took us about 2 or 3 months on that. And then once we kind of got through that, I renegotiated the contract, and it's just ended up being a really good deal. So our focus right now is just getting it refied.
What were the pain points to make it drop 125,000 off of the contract price?
So the fellow that sold it he was the heir to his sister. He was like the park manager or ran the park and a lot of her rentals. And he was just ready to move back to Kentucky, but it was the craziest deal. So most people, they want to hold on to it, like they're trying to make the most money. He really didn't care how much money he made. He made a promise to his sister that all of her money, millions of dollars, all of her money, when he closed everything out, that all of her money went to St. Jude's Children's. Like,
Interesting.
So he was like fighting tooth and nail for price on it. And at the end of the day, on the due diligence end, they were just all basically cash based. You know, there was no records of, you know, they didn't have a P&L. They didn't have any. It was just very old school mom and pop. And you know, I pitched the owner carry. Yeah, I pitched owner carry to them, and they didn't want to do that because he made a pact with his sister that, you know, he would give this money to St. Jude's. So that's how we ended up getting it ultimately. You know, and then I played the walk away game. Like, that's fine. Go find somebody else to buy it. I mean, you can go through all this. They're going to take 2 or 3 months. Like, I mean, I was willing to. I think ultimately why we got it for $350 is I was ready to walk away from the deal, and I really didn't want to, but I went into that renegotiation with that mindset. Like, yeah, if we get it, we get it. If we don't, we don't.
So years ago when I was a rookie, my captain told me, I was living in College Park, University of Maryland, and he said when I go to the bar, he goes, "You can't fuck 5 2s and call them a 10." He goes, "If there's better options," he goes, you need to go with the better option, son." I was like, that's actually really good life advice there, sir. So it sounds like if you
I don't remember this from the academy, sir.
But he lived in the neighborhood, so he told me, he's like, you know, it's better to have quality than quantity sometimes. But in terms of the assets, like if there's no other options, like he's going to come back to you because there's no other options for somebody to deal with. So that's a good negotiation tactic. It's just like used cars or cars. It's just be able and be willing to walk away.
Yeah.
Tyler, were you going to say? You're still on mute. You still got a beautiful face, but I can't hear you.
Now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. No, I was just going to say, after you were done, I was going to ask Chad to kind of take us from where he said he started into real estate, and then in between that mobile home park. I know there's a lot. And a lot of the stuff that I like about him is that he's created this lifestyle, which we all say that we want to get into, but we end up just getting on that new hamster wheel. So as far as once you started back into real estate and up to the current day, kind of where has that led you? Was this lifestyle by design, or did you just kind of find your way into this? And I'm guessing it's by design, just basically by watching and looking what you're doing. And also, we were talking about agents. I know that Wendy, your wife, is a very successful agent as well. Do you think that helps you in your business? So if you just kind of want to take us from when you jumped into real estate up through today and how that looks now.
Yeah. So to answer your first question on, you know, is it by design? I would say that 80%, yes, 1,000% by design. I mean, you know, I just love being a dad. Like, you know, I think going back to when we had our first business, you know, Savannah, she graduated college this year. You know, she really got the shit end of the stick on time and just family time. Man, we were so enthralled with our gym business. We were there all the time. She was, you know, our kids were raised in that business, and we literally had zero time. We were just working all the time. So she got the shit into the stick. And I think that really was ultimately like, man. And then, we've got William. He's our little autistic guy. He's freaking full of adventure. He loves traveling. He likes going places. So I've really just crafted it around that. And when I say I chase time, I obviously we all got to make money. You got to make money being business. I don't want to live off of 30 grand. I could if I had to. I don't want to live off of 60 grand a year. I could if I had to. I don't even want to live off of 100. Like, to me, when I left the car business the first time in our first business, and even when I left into the real estate business, like all I wanted to do was replace my income. I just wanted to make 15 to 20 grand, 25 grand a month. So like if I could do that, I'm cool. But I don't want to do it all the time. And then, real estate in our business, how easy that can be if you have your shit together. If you can flip a house and make 40 grand, just like that, but you got to have a cog. You got to have them constantly closing. You can't just do 2 a year. So when I left, I initially wanted to just flip like 5-6 houses a year. That'd replace my income and I could be home and, be a dad, really. So by design, yeah, it's been totally by design. I should be a lot further than I am in my journey. But damn, I love my time, and damn, I love hanging out. And I like hanging with Will and the kid and Ava, and I love hanging with my kids and taking them places. Like when I grew up, I didn't get to do all this traveling that we're doing. I never even got on an airplane until I went to the Army, shipping off to basic training. So I think I kind of probably do hold that more true to myself. Could I go out and wholesale 100 houses a year? Yeah, if I wanted to, but damn, that's a lot of time getting people.
Yeah.
All that. I'm not interested in that.
So you said you're flipping a bunch of houses. So you went from wanting to flip 5 or 6 houses to flipping a couple more than that a year. How are you doing that while still having your lifestyle or your life? How are you having your time?
So when I lived in South Carolina, I had started slowly building out a team. I'd only flipped a couple houses before we moved to Denver. And when I took a finance director position at a dealership here in Colorado in Denver, and within 2 weeks, it was a shit show. And within 2 weeks, I showed up back at home on a Saturday, and my wife's like, "What the hell are you doing on a Saturday? Or what are you doing home?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm sick." She's like, "Oh, bullshit, you quit, didn't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, we'll talk about it Monday. Let's go to the lake." So, in fact, that weekend I got a nickname, Tito's, from my buddy Scott. We went out on his boat, and I drank like a whole handle of Tito's. I was so damn nervous. I was like, if I don't make this shit work, I'm going to end up being divorced. I just got straight up plowed. Like laying on the ground at home. When I got home, my neighbor helped me get in the house.
Hey man, sometimes it gets away from you. It'll happen.
So that's so anyway, that's kind of like that's all by design. So how did I build that team? Because I had to. I had moved my family all the way across the country, quit my dang W-2 $250,000 job. Like I'm at zero. I turned off my marketing for a couple months, in the move, and wanting to focus on my new job. And I had 2 flips going at the time, so we had some money in the bank, so those were going to get us through. And what's funny now, and especially post-COVID, is, and all these gurus all teaching this shit, dude, I was doing all this virtual buying long before most all these gurus. I was buying houses. I was my own act person in my office right here in Denver, Colorado. Hey, do you have an iPhone? Can you walk me through the house? I can FaceTime you. Or do you have a Droid? I can send you a Google Hangouts. You have a Gmail, type thing. And I've started just having to buy houses off a lot of pictures. I did enlist, like my daughter would go and take pictures for me. She was going to college in South Carolina. So
just to be clear, you were in South Carolina near Columbia or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you took a job in the car business in Denver. So you moved the family to Denver, but you were still doing your real estate business in South Carolina.
100%.
Correct?
South Carolina.
All right. I just want to make sure that's clear, because that's what I thought, but I just want to make sure in case anybody's like, wait a second, what?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're buying remotely. Okay.
Yep. buying remotely. That's how I built my business, was buying remotely. And that's how I had to do it. Luckily, we live like 20 minutes. We're just a few miles out. We're like 6 miles outside of downtown Denver, by the way the crow flies. So I mean, we're 20 minutes from DIA, from the airport. American Airlines has a couple direct flights to Charlotte, which is a hub for American Airlines. And I started out initially, I was flying back and forth a couple times a month, maybe 2-3 times a month, walking projects, meeting with my subs and contractors. I was also GCing all of my projects from Denver, Colorado, and somehow made it work. Flying, walking properties, checking were there hiccups. Did I lose some money? Yeah, but that was my option. That's what I had to do. And then I just slowly built out a team of subs. I mean, we all I feel like people with flipping make it a lot more difficult than it needs to be, because the reality of flipping is roofers are a dime a dozen. HVAC people, they're a dime a dozen. Plumbers are a dime a dozen. If you can find 2 or 3, 4 good finish guys, trim people, all the guys that can do the cabinets and the door handles and all of that stuff. Like if you can fill that in with 3 or 4 people, like you can actually really you can scale.
Yeah, those are those little ones. Those are the skills that it's hard to find. You're right. HVAC, roofing, windows, siding. It's easy to call a half dozen places. It's that, like I always say, flipping a house, the 0 to 80% is friggin' easy. It's the 80 to 100%, that last 20% where it's like, that's where like friggin' death by 1,000 cuts sometimes. Yeah. But if you have a solid guy that can do, like I always call it, a lot of the punch out stuff, the doors, the miscellaneous stuff where it's not just an HVAC or a roof. That's where it starts to become a little bit of a pain. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like you got it.
And that's kind of how I built out my team. So, and then, it just evolved. It literally just evolved from there. I mean, obviously when we first started flipping houses, I wasn't taking on the type of projects I've got now. I was a lot of lipstick on a pig, nothing too crazy, but as we evolve, you buy that
flips.
Yeah. We evolve, and, we're buying houses where we're taking out every single wall in the house and reframing it. And, but to be, to be fair, that, through that evolution, I've met a lot of great people, and I've been able to retain them because I've been able to keep them busy enough where they've, particularly our finish and trim guys, where, they've worked for other people. They've gotten paid slow, or not gotten paid, or they've tried to have to go out and find more work. At the end of the day, we keep our guys busy, and we treat them good, and we pay them well. I've never been one to go for the cheapest guy. I don't want the most expensive guy, but I just want people that are going to do what they say they're going to do and get it done, and will come back to fix whatever they fuck up.
That's one of the obstacles I've always had, is like, sometimes I have some great guys, and then all of a sudden, like, where's he been for the last 3 months? Oh, he's in jail. It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
God damn it. Or like getting them back to fix the jobs because they're on to the next job. If you don't keep them busy enough, then they're not going to come back and work for you. They're going to work for somebody else.
Right.
Like I know guys who are not break even, but their profit margins are super low, and they're willing to do that to keep their guys moving and keep them happy. Because when they do find the $100,000, $200,000 deal for the profit margin, then they're going to show up. So sometimes it's just getting somebody to show up and then do what they're supposed to do.
Right.
And during COVID was a prime time for all of them, because for some reason, even though we're supposed to be in a decline, the construction aspect of real estate was booming. Everybody wanted to get shit done because they were home all the day. Like, oh, well, now's a good time to get the bathroom done. So the bathrooms pre-COVID for me, I was spending like between $7,000 and $8,000, and now it's like 15 to 20. And I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, costs have gone up. I mean, lipstick on a pig for me used to be 20. You could do it for 20 grand. Now it's no less than 40.
Yeah,
it seems
like you can't. I'm not saying you can't, but like it took me a little while to like recalibrate my numbers, like, because I'd walk through a place, I'm like, oh, this is about 30, and like, no, it's like 46, or 50. Like, what?
Yeah.
But it wasn't just me, from what I gather, it was everybody, and it took a little while. There was like a slack period where you had to like kind of recalibrate your numbers. But
Yeah,
you know, the good thing was on the back end of it, the prices were going up, and they were basically curing your sins. You know,
yes, we got lucky
now
on
that, yeah, you don't want to get sloppy, obviously, with your business, but let's be real. Like there was definitely plenty of times where it's like the bid came in high, a lot higher than I thought, but the sales price or ARV, nobody cared. You know, it's like, well, I got 4 offers over asking, you know, 60 grand higher than I thought I was going to sell it for. Who cares that
Right.
the electrician was an extra 8 grand, you know?
Yeah. And the time factor too. I mean, I've had multiple
Sure.
properties where the time factor, they were like some of the heaviest rehabs we've ever done that we bought like right pre-COVID.
It worked in your favor for once to not hit a deadline.
It did. I mean, like 2 of them, I was like, you know what? We've got all these other projects. Let's put that on the back burner. Our private money people, they're totally happy. They're freaking making money. They don't care. Let's just put these 2 on the back burner, put them off for about 3 or 4 months, and get these done, and we'll tackle that. You know, but now we're going into a market where we got to be very cautious on not doing that. I don't think prices are like tanking, but we're not going to get lucky on the, you know, oh, it took 7 months longer than you thought, you know, and oh, the interest was this, but hell, we made $20,000 more even after paying out the interest. That's not happening anymore.
Tyler and I had this conversation a couple of days ago, and we did a little mini podcast between the 2 of us. Is like the buying it sight unseen without having an inspection done, and they don't care if the roof is falling apart. Like that's done. Like that's over now. No. When the rates were 3.25% or 2% or whatever they were, like that was more realistic because there was more of a buffer. But now that rates are going back up, the rules are changing, the data points are changing, and we're seeing that change in the market.
And that's exactly right. I just had our team meeting this morning, and I covered that. I was like, all right, listen here. Outside of adjusting some of our numbers on the buy side, one thing we've been doing is looking at comps of when we're looking at comps, if we've got 4 good comps, what did those comps initially list at? Did they list at 275 and they sold for 315? Because 275 is truly your comp, because you don't know if there was an appraisal gap in there. You don't know if they came in and paid over cash. So we were trying to evaluate that. In fuel last week, there were folks, Cody Hoffine said 15, I think he said 15%. Whatever the sales price was, they're deducting 15% off of that sales price, and then they're working their numbers from that. So it's kind of what I'm doing. And I got that tip from, you know, my wife's mastermind on the retail side. You know, she's a broker in 2 different states, and that's what she suggested we do. So that, you know, that's what we're doing. But I just talked to my team, same thing you're talking about, Aaron. No more buying houses, no more buying a property and not factoring in the 12 grand we've got to spend on windows. We could get away with that shit a year for the last year and a half, 2 years, but you're not going to
adopt that philosophy. Like you said about the mobile home park, don't be afraid to walk away from that deal. Then be like, hey man, like until the sellers start to realize like it's no longer as big of a seller's market and it may be shifting to a buyer's market, like that, again, that's slack tide. Until they realize that, be willing to walk away, because if there is a good that comes out of this whole, you know, turbulence, which I don't want to like, I don't think it's that bad, but I think it's going to thin out some of the people that, you know, were basically paying these prices. The market, they were riding the wave of the market, and they were an investor. I think it's going to thin out some of those people. So whenever those people can't sell their house, they come back to you and say like, actually, your offer was pretty solid. That guy couldn't close. You know, here, I did 40 flips last year. If you want to call any references, let me know. But this guy, he went like, nothing wrong with getting started, but like, he's never done a deal. He can't close. Right. So I know my numbers. So I think that's going to beat some good that comes out of it. But so, like, definitely deduct that 15%, play a little conservative. Like instead of 70% of ARV, we've just been going off like 65 in some areas. So
yeah, important right now numbers.
Wholesalers too, like wholesalers have been like, if you look at these quote unquote wholesalers, which we know those are good ones, a dime a dozen, they're basing their comps off of sales for the last year and a half, 2 years. I'm like, those are false data points, because those were at 2 or 3% or 3.25%. And now we're at 5.5%, 6%. So the data points are inaccurate. So you have to really, really, really do your due diligence on what the ARV, the after repair value, is going to sell for once you're completed with this. Or you can adjust your, like this is what I just did in one of my properties. I decided to adjust the strategy where I wasn't going to sell it. I turned it into a rental. And as soon as I turned it into a rental, I got a 3-month contractor renter for $17,000. And I'm like, that alone covers my carrying costs for 2 years. And then it's not even like the busy season. So don't be scared to, this is for everybody who's listening. Don't be scared to change your strategy just because if it doesn't work in one realm, it might work somewhere else. Or if it doesn't work in the rental strategy, the short-term rental strategy, then switch it to owner financing. Like hold the financing for the person, give them a higher rate, and get the difference of the, say, 5% to the 9% for owner financed.
Right.
So there's more than one way to skin a cat. Mike just came back with his little baby boy, so he's got a little preoccupied with his left arm.
It's all right.
Hey, dad life, bro.
Yeah.
Dad life. What's it all about?
Well, and kind of like this shift right now, it's like passing up on a bad deal is way better for you long term. I mean, it can take you out. I mean, big time. Whereas, like a lot of it's deal scarcity. When you first get started, you think, oh, this is it. This is the only deal I'm going to see right now. And you just jump on it and I'll make it figure it out. And right now that's going to put you in a lot of trouble. Whereas even backing out of a deal or just waiting for that good deal is going to benefit you in the long run. And I think you see it now with a lot of wholesalers who were getting away with that pricing it high, trying to send it. And the flippers are giving them instant feedback saying, hey, we're not buying this anymore. And I'm not a big social media person, but that's what I love social media, right? Because you can go to these local groups and you're getting instant market feedback. Like whether or not people know that, you can just watch what's going on. Like I joke with Aaron in that Airbnb, people keep saying there are certain Airbnbs are doing great. All I do is see people bitch all day long about how empty they are in their Airbnbs right now. So I'm like, okay, well, let me go dive into that further. For me, for Boise, I'm noticing, man, some of the best wholesalers I know in Boise are backing out of contracts. And I'm talking to sellers and I'm asking them, hey, you said this was under contract before. Who was buying it? Because I wanted to know, like, is this somebody I've never heard of and that's why? Or is this, X, Y, and Z and they're a big dog and what are they doing? And I think it's funny that we all bitched because people were paying crazy prices for houses and we couldn't get deals. And then now it's like, well, I'm kind of getting excited. Like, I don't think the market's going to tank either. I do think we're going to have some pullback. But if we get some of those people out and we have some kind of certainty, I mean, if you have that flat line, you can make a lot of educated decisions and crush it. I mean, a flat market for a flipper, I feel like is great because here's your baseline. You know what prices are. Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. It's like an assembly line at that point. Yeah. And if we start to ride back up, awesome. And I think I know Chad's business and I'll segue into this. I know Chad does a lot of PPC. Is that still the majority of your business?
Yeah. So I do, PPC has been the staple of my business since I started in 17 and pay-per-click. So for those that don't know what PPC is, it's pay-per-click. So like Google pay-per-click, Bing pay-per-click, you can do Facebook pay-per-click. I don't know anybody making money on Facebook pay-per-click. But that Google pay-per-click has been huge for us. And then the other lead source we added at the beginning of the year, which we have been crushing, has been TV. TV's been excellent in our market, really good. So, and then, cost per lead for CPA. So our cost per lead, it was really high for a while, and it's been going down. But I don't know if that's because I just started, I went into some different areas within South Carolina, and then I'm doing PPC in just some areas in Colorado. But what I love about pay-per-click is you get a lot of information. You get generally 90% of the time, you get probably higher than that, you get a good phone number and you get a good email. And with that comes automation and following up. So when you have a good phone number, generally everybody gets their cell, and you have an email. I've said this since I've been in investor field for 3 years now. Everybody is so hot on this calling their customers and texting and blah, blah, blah. Email is not dead. I answer 4 or 5 or 6, 7 emails, depending on the day, a day, from sellers that have been in our email campaigns for 4 months, 5 months, 2 weeks, 2 years. It doesn't matter. So anybody that's listening right now, here's a huge hack. Email is not dead. It is not dead. It's a huge hack. And we buy.
How are you finding the emails, Chad?
Pay-per-click. They've got to put their email in on pay-per-click. I generally do all pay-per-click. Now, when it comes from TV, we have a VA that's handling all our inbound calls. I recently just switched that from our ad guys handling them. So I've got a VA that's been with me. She's in the Philippines. She's been with me for 3 years now, and she does a lot of our text message marketing, which I don't do a lot of, but we do it. We do enough. We make money on it. We make really good money on text right now. Still, it's crazy, but I don't spend a crap ton on it. We just kind of keep going deeper and deeper with text and just constant follow up on even stuff that we've been texting for 2 or 3 years. So we kind of gotten deeper in that. So I'm not mass texting. So just anybody that's saying texting, I do not mass text. But my team knows that it's when you're talking to a seller, whether it's an inbound phone call, on text, and then Google pay-per-click, you always get an email. But we better have an email in our system, because from there they get dropped into a long-term follow-up that goes for a couple of years.
Yep.
Just on email stuff. So
they can always opt out to unsubscribe if they want to, or you can add a value to them if you want to add them to like a marketing campaign, or just give them advice or tell them where the market's going. Create a relationship that way. Some people like to add you to their marketing campaign without being asked to. Mm-hmm. And that's what usually like the wholesalers, I've seen on Facebook, there'll be like the VAs that will scrub Facebook for emails and just add you to it. Like, how did I get added to a buyer's list in Puerto Rico? Like, what? I didn't sign up for this.
I've been seeing that too from Investor Lift. I've been getting emails to just a junk email that I've got. That's been an email that I've had forever. It's just my junk email, basically. I've been seeing stuff from Investor Lift coming through there.
Somebody's selling our data.
So but there's a lot of, obviously we all have a lot of places to improve in our business. One place in my business that I probably should improve on, that would increase probably, could be 4 or 5, could be 10 deals a year, is I have never bought a deal from a wholesaler. I've never bought a deal from a wholesaler. I don't even look at, I started to go down that route, and it turned into a rabbit hole on trying to source the deals. I spent more time trying to source the deals than just finding my own shit, is what I felt like.
Because 99% of the ones you get from wholesalers are junk.
Right.
Yeah. But it seems like the wholesalers will give you like market value price minus repair costs, and then they don't factor in the closing costs. So when you buy it, you're actually upside down with closing costs. And it's like, these numbers don't make sense.
Right. Yeah. So,
but sometimes they miss something and you can get it in your favor. So,
right. Yeah,
but most of the time it's the opposite of that. They miss something that would not be in your favor.
Yeah.
So Chad, before we got started, I think you said something about you're doing like 40 flips a year. You started out
this year. I've not been this year. This year is the year where we're scaling and we're doing it. I told my team we're doing 50. I've been doing around 20.
Okay.
Some years. 18,
okay. Still, that's nothing to sneeze at.
I've been doing about 20 flips, and I don't wholesale. I just don't have the time for it.
Yeah. And so to that, wholesaling, flipping, I consider both of them transactional income, right? You don't sell a house, whether it be wholesale or flip, no paycheck, right?
Right.
So you said something about you're shifting a little bit to pick up maybe some more, I use the term in quotes, passive income, or some like passive assets.
Yep.
What's that look like, and what made you want to shift there?
Well, being in fuel, you're around a lot of other people doing a lot of other things, so it can be easy to kind of get shiny object syndrome, and I've tried to not do that. But a lot of people I know personally that have a lot of rentals, man, they're not worried about shit. Really, in the day, you get 50, 60, 70, 100 rentals. You're not worried about shit. And on top of that, I've really started shifting to that. And we have rentals, but I'm like, if I'm going to scale my flipping business, I need to have more rentals because of the tax side of it. Like, you can't just go and flip 40 houses and have 0 rentals. You're gonna get freaking hammered, you know. So that's one of the reasons why I'm really amping up flips. Plus 2022 this year. This is the last year of bonus depreciation on that stuff. So, I mean,
So one of the reasons I transitioned away from, not, I can't say it's the only reason, but I learned that like when I flip a house, if I make $100,000, just round numbers, Uncle Sam's taking 40,000 of it, and I'm like, damn. Because at the end of the year, I'm getting crushed. And a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, oh, I make $100,000, I make $100,000. Like, no, you need to factor in a couple other numbers in there too. Or if you make, you flip and make 50,000, you're actually making $30,000. So that's why I started buying rentals, so I had more tax write-offs.
right.
And transitioning and long-term wealth, I saw more benefits, but like immediate cash to keep generating onto the next thing and the next thing and next thing is great. If I could get away from flips now and get into like owner financing, I would, because I think it's the best of both worlds.
I mean, I like flipping and I think to each his own.
100%.
I've team, my guys, they need to get paid. My assistant needs to get paid. We're all commission. My contractor, he gets paid. We partner on those deals, on everything. I mean, he gets paid a percentage of the rehab costs. I mean, there's some deals where I'm like, God, I should keep them. And I actually just talked about this in fuel on my hot seat this past meeting, was where I'm at now is there's a struggle with, we've got some deals like it's $100,000, we're going to make $100,000 on it. And it's one I should keep, that's their properties are good properties that I should keep as a rental, but I'm selling them to make sure we all get paid. And plus I've got a marketing machine now that, I'm spending $30,000 a month in marketing right now. That's the most money I've ever spent. And I started doing that in January. But it pays off. I mean, we're so damn busy, we can't even see straight off of that money. So there's that. You got to keep the cog going. And then I need to be smart and pick and choose all the rentals that are going to be profitable for us and on the back end for tax purposes, but be able to sell them down the road and just have them. I mean, as I've gotten older, I'm sitting here thinking, we've got our traction on our business, but the long-term thing is my wife and I, we have to worry about William and set up a trust for him and make sure that he's taken care of for life, money-wise, because nobody else is going to take care of him money-wise. So that's a big thing for us, a big shift in focus for me too. I've already proven that I can go and make money. I can go make money and do whatever I want. I can go freaking sell snow cones to Eskimos. I can make a couple $100,000 a year with my eyes closed doing whatever the frick I want to do. I know that, but it's transactional. And
we used to do a lot of fundraising for the Special Olympics in DC. So I networked with a lot of people who have special needs kids, and seeing like how they set up trust funds and their lifestyle and teaching them how to operate on a day-to-day basis was actually kind of cool. There's one in particular guy that I know who bought a house with an ADU, and he turned the ADU into something where his son is comfortable on his day-to-day activities. He knows what he's getting into. It's a small, like probably 400 square foot house or ADU. So, but he can keep an eye on him until he can't keep an eye on him, until he's comfortable doing it. And I was like, that's a really cool idea to use an ADU.
Man, me and my wife, we literally just talked about that. Like, we need to, Will's going to be, he's 12 at some point by the time he's 20, when he turns 21 or, in his early 20s, we talked about that. We're like, we need to have a place where we have an ADU. He's got his own place, and, maybe we need to get to like really baller status where we can just freaking hire a nanny and not feel like we're just wasting money.
I like the idea because it starts transitioning them into taking care of themselves down the road. So you can keep an eye on him, but he still has freedom. And that's the only reason I liked it. It really stuck out in my head. I've been thinking about it for a long time because me and April Crosby, I was texting her last night about like affordable housing, and like these are the kind of things I think of like elders, vets, special needs people, like stuff that people who actually truly need this kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah,
how can I
help.
transition my market into helping somebody who actually needs it? Not the people that call 911 with a stub toe at 2:00 in the morning, but people who are actually like have a true need in their life to fulfill.
We're not talking about all the bums in Seattle where Seattle's like buying apartment hotels or making people like. We're not talking about that.
Yeah, we're not talking about that. Actually, there's a in DC, it's one of the worst in the country, where if you live in the city and I guess you're a registered homeless person there, they give you a phone and they give you a stipend and they give you WIC for food, and people don't realize like they're actually getting paid to be homeless at certain places. So there's some people who actually have a true need for their future, but that's a whole other podcast.
The tiny houses that for the vets, that fundraiser that I did is out by you, Chad. It's in Longmont.
Oh, really?
So the tiny house community that we raise money for is being built in Longmont by Veterans Community Project.
Oh, where's that at?
I'll have to swing by because my brother lives in Loveland, so I'm out your way every couple of times a year.
Oh, bro, you got to call me.
Yeah. So, but just talking about the small houses, it made me think of that. That's like right in between Denver and Loveland. So I don't know where you're at. DIA.
I was just in Longmont 2 days ago walking that property that we contracted.
Okay. Yeah, but there's a lot of talk around the affordable housing and the ADUs and the tiny homes and whatnot. There's just a lot of cool stuff. So I know we're getting short on time. But one thing I definitely wanted to just hit on is this kind of a huge changing gears, but like you like really leaned into the time freedom, and I think that's something we all chase. But you kind of like forced yourself to take some action with that recently with a trip you booked and down in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Is there a way you could just like kind of give a quick highlight, like why you did it and what it was and what did you see good and bad out of it?
I think
is it mainly that's a selfish question because I want to do it.
No.
Just being honest.
No, it was one of those things where I'm like, man, wouldn't that be cool just to freaking go live somewhere for a month and like just go live somewhere for a month. And I guess maybe it was on my vision board type deal. And when you're asking how it goes, let me tell you how this goes. Hey, wife, Wendy. Hey, listen, all of July, we're gonna take our boat and we're gonna go to Key West, and I just booked a place for a month, and we're just gonna do it. Oh, hell no, we're not. There's no way I can do that. I've got showings and and I'm like, well, hey, listen, that sounds like that's your problem because you're on the retail side of real estate. I'm not. If you would come to the dark side, you could do this stuff with me. That's how it goes. And then she's not happy about it, but she wants to go. And then we go, and it's like, God, this is amazing. What was amazing about it was, one, we both have teams, but you realize how much you kind of get in the way of things with your team. If anybody's got teams, I've got an assistant, two act guys, and VA, and then David is our contractor. So, man, I learned that I can get in the way of things, and I also learned that there's other things that I should have my team doing that I shouldn't be doing. Particularly from like my assistant standpoint, like there's a lot of things I thought I offloaded a lot of things onto her, and she does a great job. But there's more things because we kind of started out as her and I started out as like she was just looking for part-time work. She's now a stay-at-home mom, former school teacher. I'm gonna tell you, and here's a pro tip for anybody in the real estate business: if you can get linked up with a former school teacher, whether it's being a real estate agent or assistant or something to do within your business, like massive winning right there because they are so organized. And I think the only reason why I was able to take that trip really and truly was because I listened to people in Investor Fuel and didn't listen to them for 2 years. And then finally I had an act manager. I went through 2 act managers and I found myself back to doing acquisitions. And they kept saying, you're a lifestyle guy. You're a total lifestyle guy. You need to have an assistant, not somebody overseas. You need to have somebody local that does a lot of the things that you don't want to do and can't do, just because of time. So that's kind of how it evolved. But I'd say number one thing I learned was number one thing I learned is my team literally, outside of getting stuff funded, they can survive without me involved every single day. Maybe I get to a point where there's some people in fuel that they let their whole team handle the whole buying process. I'm not to that point. I still need to review deals, and when I'm like if I'm doing something with Kiavi or rehab wall, whatever, I'm the one that's guaranteeing that. So I've got to make sure those numbers are right. And then all the private money that I've got, those are all relationships that I'm not willing to put at risk. And it's not fair for my private money people. I'm a fiduciary of that responsibility. So I don't care what anybody says in any real estate business. I don't give a shit what a guru says. I'm not releasing any kind of fiduciary responsibility to the funding part, particularly on private money.
That's good information. All right, we're coming up. Actually, we just wrapped up an hour. So let's hit this with the final questions. The first question is going to be, if you can go back and give your younger self advice, it could be your 20-year-old, 30-year-old, whatever, self advice, what advice would that be?
That's a good question.
Vibrate feels better. Ringtones are annoying.
Yeah. That's even annoying. Man, gosh, probably the conversation I just had with Savannah, our oldest daughter, yesterday. She real estate is an opportunity. I wish that all young kids could get involved in some form or fashion of real estate early on. My younger self, I would say, when I was driving around working extra duty in Wildwood when I was a deputy, wondering what all these people did for money, and I wanted to go into the real estate space. At that time, I wanted to be an agent, a realtor, and I was also interested in investing. Like, why did I wait so long? Why did I wait so long and let life get me sidetracked? Like, don't let yourself get sidetracked. I felt like I was just let that part of my life get sidetracked until I was like 37 years old or whatever, 30, and just imagine if we all got involved in this business when we were just getting out of the military or college, if we were 24, 25 years old. I mean, holy cow, where would we be right now? That would be my old self advice. Like, you should have chased your real estate ambitions from the very start.
Good answer. All right, my last question for you before you start wrapping this thing up is going to be, I know you're a family man. It's obvious that that's your number one motivation and drive. Aside from your family and your love for them, what is your why and what's your motivation?
So my why is, it still wraps into family. My why is, Savannah's 22. She's an adult. She'll be fine. Ava's my daughter. Poor thing. She's just like her daddy. And so in that aspect, she don't put up with no bullshit. I know she'll be just fine. But my why now is my son.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. And your freedom to spend time with him, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. I mean, I've been blessed with
a lot of the things that I've noticed that in conversations is a true wealth is freedom of time, and the time to spend with family and friends and doing the things you want, and going around the world. And like, me and my wife, this conversation a day or so ago is she's never traveled before she met me, and since she's met me, we've been to a couple of different countries, and I've driven cross country in like probably a dozen countries now, and it's like, to me, that's true living. Right. So Chad, before I want to wrap up anything, I want to see like if you have any final thoughts on or advice for anybody.
I would say you guys probably have a lot of people watching that are just getting started, or are well beyond even where I am or we are. I would just say, just from my previous experience, one, being in the car business, could only chase money. There was nothing you could chase other than that. And then our other, our first business go around, that all really revolved around time. I think if you're an entrepreneur, you've already figured out that you can make money in whatever you're wanting to do. That's why we end up being entrepreneurs. But just don't lose sight of the true most valuable thing in this life. I think is time, and with people that you want to spend time with, right? Don't spend time with people that you don't want to spend time with. There's a lot of people that are time sucks in this life and in this world. There's a lot of haters, and there's a lot of people that want to watch you fail. And if you're worried about if you're one of those people that's worried about whatever the people think about you, take those people and be like Michael Jordan and just freaking hate everybody that talks any kind of shit about you, and keep that in the back of your mind, and remember that they're the crabs in the pot that will never get out of their own way.
Yeah. It's the thing that binds us all equally. And how some people choose to use it or abuse it is, and we're all guilty of it at times, not using that most precious resource wisely. So it's like, that's why you just got to like really live intentionally. And I think a lot of people miss that, and myself was included. So now I'm like very intentional about what I want and why. And if you're not wanting to go there with me, that's cool, but get the hell out of my way.
Yeah. Be intentional. Yeah. Be intentional with time is what I would say. It's not all roses and balloons and confetti, but
damn straight.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're wrapping up a great episode with lots of information. Chad, thanks for coming on and hanging out with us. Tyler, you got anything you want to wrap up with?
No, sir. Hey, thanks, Chad, for joining us. This was awesome.
Yeah, man. I appreciate y'all having me.
All right. So just to let you guys know, Michael Jordan's fishing boat was in Maryland at the White Marlin Festival, one of his boats. And it's an $8 million boat. And then his other boat, which is down in Jupiter, Florida.
That name is Catch 23, by the way.
Yep. And the other boat is in Jupiter, Florida, and it's $80 million. So fuck the haters.
Yeah.
Dude, I got my boat in my garage, but I got to go blow it up.
Well,
it's just
I'm going to be on
guy.
my boat again next week. I'm telling my wife I'm going on a it's work related trip, but for some reason during this time of year I always end up at least 1 or 2 days down on our boat.
Thinking time, bro.
Yeah, that's right. Me and some people are going out, and we're gonna have a good time.
That's awesome.
All right,
Chad,
guys.
thank you for
Chad. I'm sorry. Good.
I was just gonna say thanks for joining us, man. Like, really appreciate it. Like,
yeah, man.
And hopefully your story inspires like just one guy out there working patrol, and like, damn, there's more out there, right?
Yeah, so, especially when you're in that field, man. Law enforcement, fire department. Man, you can still do that and still create wealth. You can still look. A lot of people in law enforcement are passionate. Like, that's their passion, and that's obviously why I still volunteer to be a reserve deputy for free. I mean, it's just a passion, but there's other parts to life too.
All right. We're going to end on that note. And guys, Chad, stay on afterwards. And guys, thanks. We'll play this little outro and we'll be wrapped up.
Thanks again for spending some time with us today. If you found value in anything you heard, please share with someone who may benefit. We look forward to connecting between shows in our Facebook group, First Responder Financial Freedom. Till next time.